Hello and good afternoon. My name is Juergen Steinmetz, joining you from eTurbo News in Honolulu, Hawaii. And with me is Dr. Peter Tarlow in College Station, Texas. And as you know, we always watch the weather very carefully. Here, it's a little bit of a cloudy day, but it's a beach day. It's warm and nice, but it's not really sunny today here in Hawaii, at least here on Oahu. However, we actually have a flash flood warning just came through our emergency
in Hawaii
system here. Yes, how are things in Texas?
Well, last night they were not good, but today they're great. You probably saw on the news, it made it at least national news across the United States, that there was terrible tornadoes in Texas yesterday. As a matter of fact, my area, which is Brazos County, was under a tornado watch, and many people ended up spending part of the night in their closets. So it was, and the tornadoes did touch down in 1 or 2 spots. And so that was really, Round Rock, Texas, which is about 90 miles from here, chased people into a Walmart because the tornado actually touched down on the parking lot. So that was a bad night last night. But around 10 o'clock this morning, the storms went on their way to Georgia, wherever they're going, and the skies turned blue. It's a little bit windy, but beautiful weather, almost fall-like weather, even though it's spring, and with blue skies. So we went from the misery of terrible tornadoes and terrible thunderstorms to really a lovely day today. So hopefully that's symbolic of the world of tourism.
I'm glad, Peter, that Walmart is letting people in, because I remember the time when we had this fake missile warning here from North Korea, and people were trying to stream into Walmart, and all they did, they barricaded the doors and didn't let anyone in. So I think they're learning now, so that's a good thing.
They are. And I hope that if you have another missile attack in Hawaii, that you will be able to get into Walmart, because if you're going to die, where's a better place to die than shopping? So hopefully, I don't know if Walmart sells anything for nuclear blasts, but if they do, please let me know. Anyway, I'm going to take the symbolism of going from darkness to light and rain to sunshine as hopefully maybe something that can be symbolic for the world of tourism. There's still so much going on, from airline prices we're being told may go up considerably, to of course, the whole issue of gas. I don't know what it's costing. Around the world, gas is now very expensive. And my friends in Europe tell me the same thing. I was just in Mexico, and gas has been going up every day. And here in the United States, still in Texas, it's pretty good. We're about $3.80 a gallon.
Wow, that's cheap.
But California, I know they're over $6, and I don't know what it is in Hawaii.
More than $6 now at a regular gas pump. If you go to Costco or Sam's Club, you still get it like $4.99. It's right around $5.
Wow. But for a single person, that's okay. But if you're a family and you got to, or have a long commute, I mean, Hawaii, you can't have that long of a commute. But if you're in mainland the United States or mainland Europe, many people travel quite long distances, and those gas prices are going to really hurt. And of course, the problem from a tourism perspective is when people have to pay for food prices, which are expected to go up considerably, or gasoline prices for transportation. They don't have money to travel, because travel on some level is an expendable item, except of business travel. And that's really very difficult then for a family, especially you're a family with young children and maybe a single breadwinner, to then consider a vacation. So I'm wondering if this summer, it'll be interesting to see. People want to travel. They've been cooped up because of COVID. They're dying to travel. But on the other hand, will they have to have staycations instead of vacations, because they won't be able to afford it? And that's...
Well, and of course, I mean, I think it was expected as coming out of the Corona crisis. I can tell you here in Hawaii, we still have some of the cheapest airfares I've seen here in the 30-some years I lived, and go to the West Coast for $100 each way, what I've never heard before. But I can see, we just did a test. If you go in May, that goes from $100 each way to $220 each way. Yes, it looks like prices are going up. Is it all gas? Maybe. But I think it's expected. The industry wants to recuperate, they want to make money, and they want to test probably the waters, how much they can go.
Yeah. Well, there's three parts to this. Part of it is the actual amount that you pay for travel. And of course, and when you're looking at fuel, you have three types of fuel. You have airline fuel, airplane fuel, which is less expensive. Of course, they use a lot more of it. Then you have fuel for gas, for your cars. And then, of course, you have diesel. Now, diesel is what makes a truck go, and diesel is very expensive right now. So when diesel prices go up, the price of everything else that's delivered by truck goes up. And again, Hawaii is kind of the exception because it's a small island, but or islands. But on the mainland U.S. or in Europe, you have to deliver everything by truck. And Europe has now, as it became the European Union, where once upon a time, maybe Germany ran its own food and Belgium did its own food and Holland did its own food. Now they're importing food from around Europe. And so just like the United States, it's not the local markets as much anymore. Instead, things are being imported by trucks. So when diesel goes up, everything goes up. The other side of that is travel. It's how much you spend for travel, for your actual dollar in spending for travel. And then how much do you have left from your daily expenses, your household expenses, your mortgages, your cost for transportation, school, food, because especially leisure travel is based on expendable dollars or expendable whatever your currency is, euros. And so if people don't have that extra money, they can't travel. And that actually would be a break on tourism inflation for the first side, because if people can't travel, the airlines will have to bring their prices down in order to fill the planes up again. So it's going to be kind of a really fascinating summer to see how this all works out.
And it's going to be a fascinating summer because really we don't know where this industry is going. With the war going on in Europe right now, things might be shifting rightfully. I know you just returned from Mexico, and I think people in Mexico are actually optimistic when it comes to tourism. Why is this, Peter?
Yeah, both in Mexico and in much of Central America. And part of that is for three reasons. First of all, Mexico is very lucky that it is next to a major market. Obviously, the US and Canadian markets are huge markets, and it's not far to get to Mexico. Secondly, it's far from war zones. So when you're in Mexico, the Ukraine is a million miles away. If you're in Poland, it's down the road. But if you're in Mexico, it could be another planet. So I think many people in Latin America are saying that if Europe should continue to have problems, and it may very well, then people may start shifting to Latin America. If you're looking at Latin America from an American perspective, from Houston I was just in Guadalajara, that's a 2.5-hour flight only. And literally it's a different language, a different culture, a different cuisine, a different set of ideas. And so you get the foreign experience, but bring close to home. And by the way, great medicine in Mexico, wonderful hospitals, excellent doctors, many of whom speak English. And therefore, that's becoming another attraction, bringing people in who might not want to spend the cost of a dentist or the cost of a doctor. They can do it for half price or less in many of the Latin American countries. So I think, they're pretty optimistic because they see themselves as on the rise. The one key element they don't have, and where they really have to work on, is internal security. And so it's very important for Mexico to create not just people with guns on their shoulders, but have people well-trained in tourism security and understanding what they need to do, and then make their people who are taking care of their beaches, guarding their beaches or guarding their museums or whatever it happens to be, also open to the whole world of tourism and knowledgeable about that. But if they can do that, then I would think Mexico will probably become, if not the first, certainly be in the top 3 of international travel, because it's got everything. It's got history, it's got architecture, it even has pyramids, great food, wonderful beaches, lots of mountains. And it feels foreign, and it has and the Mexican people are a very open, warm people.
And the food is great.
Yes. And there's not just one cuisine in Mexico. And that's a big mistake
Right.
that people make. Mexico has many different types of cuisines. I was invited once by a now defunct airline to go called Mexicali at the time. And or Mexican Air. And I was asked to go to a dinner it was sampling Mexican food. And I went to 27 different types of Mexican food. Every region has its own set of food. So when people say Mexican food, there is no such thing as Mexican food. There's Mexican foods, Mexican cuisines with a plural, because they have an incredible amount of food from across the country.
And we should not forget how important food is actually for the travel and tourism industry.
Yes, yes.
If you look at, for example, Thailand, I remember the time when the Tourism Authority of Thailand was given inexpensive loans to restaurants in the United States so they can promote tourism, because the food promotes tourism. And the same counts for Peru. Look at Peruvian food, excellent. You know, and it really promotes every Peruvian restaurant you go, you see pictures from Machu Picchu, and you see, you know, the local atmosphere. Turkish food. I mean, if you go to a Turkish restaurant, I see here in Hawaii, you get the beautiful scenery of Istanbul in the background. So restaurants are quite an important marketing tool for travel and tourism.
Yes, on both levels, also reputation. So you have the whole, if you think about it, what really made France so famous at first was French food. You might like it or dislike it, but it certainly became famous. And French wine. And the whole wine region of France, really in Bordeaux, really put France on the map because of France's well-known concept of food. So food can become a major tourism attraction. People, when they travel, love to eat. And part of the fun of travel is to experience different forms of food.
Yeah, and destination, of course, have to learn a little bit. I remember the time when I went to Kazakhstan on a trip, and it was like we're on the bus and on the road for 7 days, and every day they told us, you have something very special today, and it was horse meat. The first time it was okay. The second time, you don't know. And the third and fourth time, you wish you had something else. So food is definitely a big component in travel and tourism for the
food and drink.
People have to, and drinks, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you imagine going to Ireland and not having Guinness? You know, so the first time I was in Ireland, I learned the Irish don't eat a lot, but boy, are they good at drinking. And you know, Irish whiskey, which by the way is spelled in Ireland with an E to stand for area, to stand for Ire, the Irish word for Ireland. So you can spell whiskey W-H-I-S-K-Y or W-H-I-S-K-E-Y, and the E is there. That means it's a local Irish product.
Oh, really?
And so I learned when I was in Ireland, the first thing people taught me was how to pour Guinness, which is an art, and the difference between other nations' whiskeys and Irish whiskey. But again, that creates something unique. And tourism is all about the difference. What makes your place unique? If you just have the same events as everybody else, the same food, homogenized food as everybody else, and the same sites as everybody else, or pretty much the same sites, why go there? So you have to have in tourism something special. It doesn't matter if you're in Ireland or in Israel or in Pakistan or in Australia. You've got to have uniqueness.
No, absolutely. And I think maybe that's why Jamaica is doing so well already. Our friend Minister Bartlett just issued a release that they're back to, or very close to the 2019 record numbers. What is good? Maybe it's the rum. I don't know. What do you think, Peter?
Well, certainly Jamaica doesn't lack for things to drink or to eat. Of course, they're also known for their jerk chicken and other things like that. But I think that, you know, the Caribbean is kind of like Mexico in that it's got wonderful opportunities. The Achilles heel of the Caribbean is lack of tourism security. And if they can conquer that problem, then they can conquer almost everything else. Now, they do have a few issues when it comes to weather during hurricane season, but some of the islands like Curacao and Aruba are below the hurricane belt. So they would be okay no matter what. And some places like the Bahamas have kind of solved that problem by giving you a weather guarantee so that if it rains or goes below, I think 75 degrees Fahrenheit, the Bahamas will make your hotel room free.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So and of course that makes sense because, you know, the Bahamas is just 30 minutes off the coast of Florida. Florida in the winter can be wonderful and beautiful, but you can get some cold days. And if you're flying in from Europe or from Canada, the United States, you don't want 40-degree weather. You want to be in the sun. So people were trying to shy away. And that makes a lot of sense. Guarantee the weather. If it's not at least 75 degrees, we're going to make it free. So I think Hawaii also will take advantage of the European problems, because maybe instead of going to a different country and having to go through all of the rigmarole of going from one country to another, getting tested, COVID tested, retested, you know, et cetera, if you're just in the same country, it makes it a lot easier. And you don't have to worry about, did you have your COVID test within 24 hours, for example, in the United States to get back?
Well, that is still actually the case here, but it will change on Saturday, on the 26th of March. So
what will happen?
On Saturday, the Safe Travel app, what is now required to arrive in Hawaii, what either you need to prove that you are vaccinated twice, or you have to have a PCR test still if you're not vaccinated. And this regulation is going to be history starting Saturday. And not only that, I mean, I can go back to the gym. I haven't been to the gym for 2 years because you no longer have to wear a mask. It's very difficult to do exercise with a mask. So the world is changing. And on the other hand, we're hearing all these stories about an increase and a new form of the virus again. What's up with this, Peter?
Yeah, so it's still a little bit questionable. Supposedly what we're hearing, but of course you understand anything we say about COVID could change tomorrow. But what we're right now hearing as of the evening for me, the 22nd of March, is that this is a very rapidly spreading variant, but it's not very dangerous. And it's basically like a bad cold. So hopefully it stays that way. And not that it spreads quickly, but that it doesn't become more dangerous. Usually viruses, as they mutate, get weaker. So that's kind of following the normal trend of a virus. Of course, COVID has done it's kind of like a hurricane. It goes in one direction and turns around and goes the other direction. But let's hope that these new variants are getting weaker and weaker, so that we're really going already now from a pandemic to an epidemic. And that's really good news, because it means that epidemics are so much easier to control. And there's always going to be some people that will be hurt and unfortunately die, but it won't be the mass fear that we've had before. And as we're developing more and more therapeutics, the other side is 2 years ago when you got COVID, there was no one understood it and no one knew how to handle it. You know, we had no therapeutics for it. Now we understand it well, and we have a number of not only vaccines, but also a number of medications that, as they're produced, will be like, you know, like a bad cold, you take some medicine for it, or the flu, there's some medicine you can take for it. And so if you catch it early, there'll be ways of handling it much more efficiently. And that will allow travel to be much better.
No, absolutely, Peter. Well, a lot going on. I think in a few days, we're going to talk a little bit about our new campaign, Scream for Ukraine. A lot going on that front. And so I guess we're going to be back in 2 days. And for everyone who wanted to watch a repeat of this news broadcast, or also go back and see what else we had talked about, you can just go to our YouTube channel or click on the links provided on every page on eTurbo News. And if there's anything you wanted us to talk about, or you wanted to add, or you wanted to be a guest on our show, just click on contact and let us know what you wanted to contribute.
And we would love to get your input, and we would love to interview you. So if you have anything at all that you'd like to talk about, please let us know, and we will do our best to incorporate you into this absolutely brilliant program.
All right, Peter. Mahalo, as we say here, and you have a good night.
Have a good evening.
For everyone else, we'll talk to you soon.
Don't get flooded in Hawaii tonight.
All right, try not to. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The historic Devon House in St. Andrew is to be spruced up under a $70 million project. Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett broke ground to undertake the beautification project during a ceremony at the courtyard recently. Annika Simpson has more in this report.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says this new development thrust aims to position Kingston, particularly Devon House, as the gastronomy center of the Caribbean and arguably the Western world.
Gastronomy represents, as you know, the centerpiece of the consumption patterns of visitors across the world. 42% of the expenditure of the visitor is on food. And if in 2019 they spent $9 trillion moving across borders, do the math, 42% of that is huge. It's just a little over $4 trillion.
Mr. Bartlett says that gastronomy for tourism is the #1 pillar of growth, and Devon House is going to be the standard for the presentation of Destination Kingston.
To make the courtyard a place of glory, a place of allurement, a place of excitement, a place of aesthetics, a place that you want to be, to have yourself a sense of place.
The minister says the intention is to improve the aesthetics and functional appeal of Devon House for local and foreign visitors. And with the improvements, he wants Jamaicans to see Devon House as theirs.
We want Devon House to be your place, your house, your lawn, your courtyard. And we're going a little further from that, but I won't want to say too much about that because I'm speaking on the 5th of April. In my budget presentation, and I have a fulsome presentation on this Devon House development and where we are going in building out the experience.
Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Northeast, Delroy Chuck, also welcomed the initiative as an additional incentive to attract more visitors and to welcome back locals to Devon House.
This complex stands out in Kingston as an area that all Jamaica can visit. And they do visit on a regular basis. And with the pandemic coming to a close, I have no doubt that Devon House will be one of the, not only entertainment area, but somewhere that people gather as they did before the pandemic. There's so many facilities here in Devon House that I'm sure we can tell Jamaica, here is where you can visit and have fun.
Devon House, which is one of Jamaica's most celebrated historic landmarks, was the residence of George Steeble in the 1800s, who is touted as Jamaica's first black millionaire. Work on the property is to be completed in 6 months and will be monitored by the Tourism Enhancement Fund. For the news on PBCJ, I am Annika Simpson.